YouTube, how is everybody doing today? Welcome to the second match. Whoa, we're losing a little bit of focus on that camera. Camera, focus up, show's on. We cannot be playing with focus at this point in time. Welcome to the second match of the day. It's the only match we have available in this timeline, and so what can we do? It is the 9 a.m. UTC time slot. My focus is going out of control right now, so I apologize for that. It should eventually realize that, I need to focus on the dude standing right in front of the camera. But anyway, the only match we have for the day at this point in time at 9 a.m. UTC is Group G. Group G has JWM against HKL, the final matchup in there. And this group is actually looking a little interesting. Technically speaking, if HKL can pull off a victory against JWM, they are very much still in the fight. And then afterwards, DSP going up against KW61 might bear a few fruits if DSP somehow dropped the ball and KW61 managed to clinch a win. And so this matchup is just the final one in JWM series of matches in this Osiris League playoffs. And so we can take a look at them very quickly. JWM with 2.881 billion power, cruising through Osiris League. First couple stages of the playoffs, pretty successful takes overall. 80,000 points on the first couple of matches in the rounds and the eliminations to get here. And then during the group stages, two very solid performances, looking for a third one against the folks at HKL. These guys knock in about 2.028 billion power. A lot of power difference in here. We're talking a good 700 plus million power difference between these two alliances. And this might be a big problem for the folks at HKL. They're going to be challenged to the max. These folks had a lesser easy go through the playoff stage, and they actually lost their previous match in a very, very, very tight matchup against DSP. DSP clutched the victory at the very end. And so it was a really fantastic matchup today. They get to go up against JWM. Now, before we go take a look at JWM, one of the things I had mentioned in the previous cast are two different words that we'll be using through casts and through talking about Ark of Osiris, and that is strategy and tactics. And with us, we have Chiskel Gaming, who made a little interesting comment to a little video for us about what exactly is strategy, what exactly is tactics, and how it works out inside the world that is Rise of Kingdoms. So let's go take a quick look, shall we?
Ark of Osiris battles, whether you're fighting in League or playing with your friends, with your alliance, in regular matches. It's no coincidence that we've got Sun Tzu on the screen, who was, by the way, a tactical genius. At least this is what it says up here. He's even written a book about waging war. We're going to pull from his tips, by the way, in our list of things over here. That's right, The Art of War. It's a real book. I think what he's holding in his hand over here, too, is a representation of the original Art of War, which he wrote on little sheets of bamboo that were stitched together that were like the size of chopsticks. Pretty nuts. Now, there's a lot to talk about here with regard to how you can go and win. But if we were to boil it all down to 3 quick tips, here's what I would offer you. First and foremost, define with your alliance what strategy you are using, and we need to define this word strategy. Strategy is the big picture approach for how you will win. Is it taking more arcs and focusing on that? Is it focusing on structures? Or is it maybe something in between? And of course, there's all kinds of wacky strategies you could use, like we're going to rally everybody's cities and, somehow that pressure is going to make us win other parts of the battle. But for the most part, it's those 3 different big picture strategies that we should be talking about. Are we going for structures? Are we going for arcs? Or are we doing some blend where we maybe start with structures, go for arcs at the end, or vice versa? Those are the big picture strategies you could use. Now, once you've agreed on your strategy with your alliance, the second thing that you should do is figure out what tactics you will use to go and win. Tactics are the things you do specifically to execute your strategy. So, for instance, if one of our strategy is to hold more buildings, one tactic would be which commanders we use to defend those structures. A tactic would be figuring out who and how we're going to reinforce structures on an ongoing basis if it's getting rallied. A tactic, if you are rallying something, will be, hey, what commanders will we use for that rally? Or every time we launch a rally on something, we're going to send 2 solo marches with it. If it's a commander that's got some healing that we're going to go attack, we're going to make sure we bring some counters to healing. Or maybe we're going to bring commanders that do debuffs like Ethelfled, or commanders that buff like Joan of Arc. Those are tactics to execute against your strategy. If your strategy was, we're going to run the arcs, then your tactic might be, at 2 minutes before the arc spawns, we're going to send everybody to the middle. That is a tactic. So as we talk about the battle, we need to know what's the strategy and what are the tactics. And as you watch these battles and you're chatting about them in the comments, which you should totally do, talk about what strategy you see at play, talk about the tactics you see at play. The last thing we need to talk about, the third step, is to test and learn. I know in my alliance, White Tigers, we are always trying something new, and it's no secret to the members of the alliance what it is that we're going and testing. Some small number of people who are at least conducting the test all know, like, hey, here's the thing we're trying a little bit differently this time. Let's see if it's better or not. Hopefully you found these tips to be helpful. Start using them, and I promise you'll start to get some better results. Get your alliance members on the same page for the strategy. Figure out what tactics you're going to use, and test and iterate every single time so that you get better and better and better. Let's send it back to you at the desk, Gecko, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Chiskel, for your input. Always appreciated in these quick videos with a little bit of extra insight before we get into the match. Keep an eye on the strategy and the tactics, but can you identify the strategy while the tactic is being tacticked? Yeah, it's madness all over the place. That's why we love Osiris League as much as we do. Before we hop into the match, we got about 2 minutes remaining, and this time we're going to make sure we make it in. Let's take a quick look at the betting situation in this matchup. And boy, oh boy, you guys really didn't want to give HKL a chance. JWM taking a massive chunk of the bets. Funnily enough, this match was not the most bet match of the day. The UCS match that happened previously was the most bet match of the day, with most of the chips sitting on UCS, who won their matchup. And now JWM are about to face the folks from Kingdom 30. As Chiskel mentioned in the video, we're looking not only at tactics, which are the small pieces moving around, the rallies, the rally leaders, the folks holding onto the buildings, the commanders in charge. Not only that, but we're also trying to scope out the strategy, the main strategy, while picking out the small tactics that are used in which sequence and in which way to implement the final strategy. It's very cool to keep an eye on how alliances, again, become more and more creative with the ways they approach their strategy. And as the match progresses, if you guys notice a pattern or something within the alliance strategy that you guys see this consecutive sets of rallies coming out, make sure to let us know in the comments section. We'll keep an eye on those as well. And if any of you catch a little bit of the strategy, we will definitely highlight it through the cast. We're about 30 seconds away from the match, and this time we're not about to get locked out. We weren't locked out the last time either, but let's just say it took us a moment more than I wanted it to take for us to get into the match. And hopefully this time around we already should have Dragothian with us on the line. Dragothian, are you already with us?
Absolutely, Gecko. Round 2, buddy. Can't wait.
How's it going, my man? So we're about to try to make our way into this match. Let's see how this works out, as last time it was a little bit tense to get in, but this time we get in first try. So let's swap to the battlefield and then take the commentary from there, shall we?
Yeah, Gecko. So another quality match coming up here in the next 2 minutes that's going to get started. We've got JWM versus HKL. Both are very, very solid in their own right. Obviously, JWM, a super powerhouse alliance inside a super powerhouse kingdom that hasn't come out of nowhere by any means. They're well known to the community. HKL as well in their own right, very powerful and very ready to go. From what I hear, they're looking to make a statement, even though they're almost 1 billion power down, just over 800 million power down from a total matchmaking power standpoint. But that doesn't necessarily mean everything like we've seen in the last few matches. What you think, Gecko?
Oh, I definitely think we have a good one to take a look at. HKL definitely have a lot to prove as they are trying to make their way through what seemed to be a very, very tough group that they drew with DSP and JWM in that set 4 with about 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining. We are hoping that this is a match we'll see a 30 versus 30 off the gate already. And I'm assuming Dragothian this time around, we will be able to see the 8 rallies coming out, if not more, quite honestly, coming out of each of this camp, this match. And who do you think will take the early lead?
You know, I think it's always so difficult to pick who's going to take the early. It's just a matter of who can really kind of make their statement right out the gates. You know, you just mentioned it. Who's going to set those rallies the quickest? Who's going to break the rallies and possibly take an early capture advantage from an altar standpoint or a shrine? Most of those rallies are not going to the opponent's obelisks when it comes to their rallies being set right off the gate. They're breaking them. They're going to try and take those right off the bat at the very beginning. I'm going to say JWM just strictly because I've seen their past few matches and they've got that part of the game nailed down pretty darn well. I haven't seen a whole lot of HKL matches recently anyway, so I'm looking to see if they've really kind of nailed that part of the game down too, because it's very critical.
Yeah, and not to mention that, as exactly what you said is about to happen, the gates of hell are opening up. 23 members of the core of HKL were in here. One popped in as soon as the timer ran out, and it's a 30 against 24, Dragothian. Where is the statement?
Boy.
Where is the statement? We're looking...
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be incredibly tough. We're looking at matches that don't really have, I guess, too much of a meaning per se. HKL not really thinking they can get out of this alive, and so not giving it their best to get out of this match. It's kind of disappointing because we talked about this previously, that we expect these alliances to go all out, but sometimes it just, you know, sometimes it's just not worth it, I guess.
I don't know. To me, it's always worth it. Fighting's fighting, whether it's on the battlefield in KVK or in your own home kingdom or in this kind of event like Ark of Osiris where there's no resources used. Why not take advantage and at least try some things out? I do see quite a bit of the red team, HKL, pouring out of their base respectively on your screen. So the folks that are in, those 24 players, they're definitely pumping out some serious firepower coming right out the gate. I'm interested to see how the rallies start stacking up. We've got 7 on the field already, but look at this. 5 of those 7 are from our friends in blue with JWM.
Yeah, man. I apologize that the camera hasn't moved in a moment. Coffee spillage emergency, but we're not gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna dwell on that too much. We're looking at 8 rallies, as you said. JWM really taking the brunt force of those rallies right there, setting them out in towards everything rallyable at this point. And both alliances are slowly tickling into their own obelisks, trying to occupy as many obelisks as quickly as possible and their outposts. Looks like JWM took the game when it comes to outposts, but the first obelisk was captured in the favor of HKL. JWM following that up with their own obelisk, and second one as well captured first by JWM. 1 obelisk remaining, and now we're going to take a look at the forward-facing buildings. No forward action by either alliances just yet toward these big boy buildings, the Shrines of War, Shrines of Life, and all that good stuff. rallies and marches slowly making their way here. Looks like JWM are looking to posture forward very early on.
Yeah, I'm interested to see just like every match that we cast where I get go, who's going to capture their Shrine of Life first. That's my first thing, because sometimes that's the forgotten one that everybody thinks, oh wait, totally forgot about that Shrine of Life down at the bottom or at the top, right beside our obelisk that's sitting there waiting to be captured for some really juicy points. And you mentioned it, JWM, right, capturing those outposts first and foremost. Those are going to give more points than the obelisks on each side. However, at the beginning of the match, those teleports that those obelisks provide on each side, respectively, are going to provide those crucial, valuable teleports for those frontline warriors you were just talking about to port in after they've captured it in about 2.5 minutes. And then the battles will start to begin, because that's also when all 4 of your respective sides' frontline objectives, those altars and those shrines, will pop.
Well, we're looking here at a rally by HKL making its way up in the building, in the map, on the way to the obelisk that belongs to JWM at the top. And just like this, wow, take a look at the change right here. JWM picked up an obelisk away from Red Team. Red Team was caught off guard. HKL have a bunch of marches on their way here, but it looks like JWM somehow got there first. Maybe just the first quick cav came in to hold on to this obelisk, and a rally slipped into this obelisk before HKL could react. What is this?
Yeah, it's actually been a strategy that I've seen more and more lately. Somebody sending a double C-led rally with a Genghis Khan secondary. And with that extra march speed and the mobility talent tree from double C, sometimes rally, if the opponent is not careful, can actually arrive before the home base team can reach it. And that's actually been something I've seen quite a few times to use to great effect. They're not necessarily going to keep the obelisk and capture it, because, again, there's not really a whole lot of support that they can send behind it on JWM side. But that's just a longer delay. That's less troops on the battlefield for the opponent to be able to bring forward on the bottom side. And now look at this. You've got probably a minute or so before the obelisks actually capture for each respective side. And now all these marches are sitting at this obelisk instead of positioning at the desert altar and the Shrine of Life.
Yes, sir. The 1.5 minute at least delay right there by JWM is going to make things so much harder for HKL, who had to micro-focus really onto this freaking obelisk to try to get themselves back into the teleport game. But in that process, they lost all the altars, the Shrine of Life. Their Shrine of Wars is theirs, but barely. They got their obelisk back, but at the cost of the whole map.
But it cost everything. And obviously already HKL is going to be on their back foot. There's people in the chat saying HKL lost the obelisk and pretty much there goes the match. I don't know if it's the whole match, but it definitely puts HKL on their back foot for sure. And right off the bat, JWM showing not only a massive amount of strength, obviously having a few more players than the opposing side on top of that, but the strategy to boot, taking somebody's obelisk before they even capture it, is definitely a statement by JWM.
Not only a statement, it looks like it's a play that worked out really well, and we've seen JWM attempt this before in their previous match that we casted. They also almost got away with a rally, making it to the obelisk in time. I guess this time around, really, HKL weren't paying attention, and you got it dead right. Inside that rally, there was someone who turned out to have been a good captain, because when that obelisk was hit, we saw a Richard right there, right? So I'm assuming these guys set up one good march, one good rally, hoped and prayed it would arrive in time, and when it did, they swapped captains and allowed themselves to not only rattle HKL, right? Look at the map right now. If we look all over the place, HKL are right now desert altar, a lot of open field presence, but nothing too severe. They're not targeting buildings yet. Finally, sky altar at the top, getting rallied and getting swarmed. but there are 46 seconds remaining for first occupations of all of these altars. And for JWM to hold on after the 40 seconds is not that significant. They are gunning and aiming for first occupation. And HKL's top priority should be right now in the sky altar what they're doing, and to do the same in their desert altar. Get those out of the hands of JWM before first occupation's locked in, because if they do, JWM start with a 1,500 point lead this match.
Man, I gotta tell you, I'm staring at that altar right there, and wow, that Genghis-led defense is surprisingly tanky. I'm very curious as to what all is in there, and if JWM can secure it in 1 second, and sure enough, they got it right there. That's the points they were looking for, right? Even if it drops, like you said, they got their points. They probably won't get many more points per minute, but those crucial points at the very beginning has brought them really to a quick 3,700 point lead and a massive points per minute advantage at 890 per minute versus 210 for HKL. This is going to be very difficult for HKL to come back from. Not just the current points deficit, but the points per minute is heavily in favor of JWM.
Dragothian, I'm amazed, first of all, that this Genghis Khan still holds, and secondly, that finally Genghis found his way down. And truthfully, we talk a lot about the effect of picking up an Ark of Osiris and how critical the center is, the middle is, but we never really we do emphasize first occupations are important and all that, but truthfully, what JWM just did is they neutralized the first Ark of Osiris. They have enough of a lead right now with less than 15 minutes worth of a match happening based on first occupations and timing rallies correctly, where they could, if they want to, completely forfeit that first Ark of Osiris, and they have enough of a lead, Dragothian, that mathematically, if they keep the way they're playing right now, they don't even need to pick up the Ark of Osiris.
Yeah, I mean, how about that? How about coming into the match and thinking, oh wait, I'll just go ahead and get myself a free Ark of Osiris without even capturing it yet. I think most people would take that in a heartbeat. And just like you're saying, I mean, it looks like JWM is just a minute faster on everything versus HKL. HKL is more reactionary at the moment, and obviously that will come whenever you're 2 players down, almost 14 minutes into the match. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to stay on top and stay ahead of the game whenever you're short players, and then on top of that, you lose your obelisk before you can even capture it right off the bat. JWM is definitely in a very strategic and strong position to continue to push this advantage and continue to win the points per minute battle. And obviously in the middle, if we take a look in the middle alongside of some buildings to the left of it getting rallied and attacked, JWM's got that middle pretty well secured from a open field army standpoint, which means they also look to get that arc and get a double arc point beginning.
Yeah, and it's crazy because what do you do? It's the train, JWM train, which is something I've been saying since I got hit by it in the first Lost Kingdom season, is just look at the train reaction that they created here. They started off by picking up that obelisk and completely diverting the attention of HKL away from everything but that obelisk, which net them 4 altars and 4 first occupations. Seemed about right. And while HKL tried to react to that, JWM started going towards the center, towards this arc, and HKL seemed to be always a step behind. By the time HKL finally figured out how to answer the previous move JWM did, JWM have already been waiting for the answer and have a next step already ready. And so it's unbelievable, the train effect they create. It's just back to back to back to back. Every time you think you got a little bit ahead of them, you find out that you're very far behind, and it's getting even harder.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I will say, to HKL's credit, they just defended those 2 structures to the left of the arc, and
yes, sir,
although it looks like the arc is about to pop, and some HKL have squeezed through that left side around the bottom part of that mountain range, which is a strategy that I've seen a lot of other players take whenever we're talking about really just trying to maximize the efficiency of those troops on the battlefield. And now that it's captured, HKL and JWM are both at the arc. It's going to be a little bit harder for JWM to pull that arc back than I think they initially thought. And kudos to HKL for kind of making that play at the right time. This is the kind of play that they're going to need to make over and over in this match to have a shot at catching back up and then ultimately taking the lead. They're definitely going to drop that arc carrier. What do you think?
When HKL told you, or anyone who told you the information that you got, that these guys came to make a statement, whoever told you that, this is what they meant right here. HKL had they were every step behind, every time a little bit behind, but for some weird reason, they are, no, not a weird reason really, their ability and capability of reading the game more than anything else, they realized, okay, this is JWM's next step. And so we're not only going to react to the current step, but we're also going to start pacing ourselves towards the next phase, which is this Arc of Osiris. Now, the Arc carrier for JWM is really starting to run away with it. I thought he was going to go down. Turns out that he's being followed by a Richard, who is not the ideal candidate to have running after any march, even an Arc slowed march, especially because he's getting chunked out of his mind by Pepe's marches out there with an Ethelfled making everything weaker, a YSG doing damage all over the place, Genghis Khan just tanking, and it looks like this Arc march slowly and steadily making its way, not even caring about the red marches anymore.
Yeah, there's nothing coming from the top left, and I think what you just saw is exactly why skills and talents matter. So obviously the Arc carrier, it's got a double C led army, and that's going to have the mobility talent tree alongside the cavalry talent tree. And there's tons of march speed in not only those two trees, but there's also a very quick point that you can pop up on the peacekeeping talent tree, which is what double C has as well in his yellow tree. That is also march speed based. So that's why when you see a Chow Chow led army on the battlefield, it's meant for mobility, or at least it's supposed to be. Now, the reason that other army that tried to catch up, that was cavalry based, by the way, and should have, the reason it didn't catch up, though, is because it looked like Genghis Khan was the second on that pairing. And what happens with Genghis Khan, because of his skills, when he's in battle, he has a march speed reduction instead of a march speed boost when he's not in battle. So every time that army went to tap that double C, capturing that Arc of Osiris, which just happened, it would slow down. So you would lose that march speed, and then you'd have to re-catch up after you left the battle and eventually got that march speed back. That's why it kept pinging every 10 seconds instead of continually hitting. And that's how I was able to run away with it.
Yeah, it's cool that people don't think about the small nuances of commanders, right? That's one of the reasons why I am not the biggest of fans necessarily of following someone's build. When someone asks me for a talent tree without them knowing what they're going into, that usually is a small problem for me when it comes to giving out information, because this is a fantastic small nuance about Genghis Khan. That truthfully, when you ask someone, who should I max next? My next commander should be. Someone goes, Genghis Khan, then Alexander. That's what you need to do because these guys do great damage and blah, 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 blah. And people don't truly know how these commanders work. They follow someone else's advice without doing the homework and reading the fine prints which make these commanders so unique. So Dragothian, you just showed how well versed an individual at the top tier needs to be to understand these things. And either these folks messed it up, or they didn't think that March would even find itself in that position where that Genghis Khan would actually be detrimental.
Yeah, I agree. And one of those things, right, where you just had the army there and you tried to make it work, and unfortunately it just didn't work. I think that was really just a matter of HKL probably was just a little surprised that they were able to make those armies reach that arc to at least be in the position, because even 30 seconds before, JWM had that whole area swarmed with armies. And I see that we're looking down at the Shrine of Life, where there's another rally coming from JWM. There's also two JWM held buildings right above that. They're also taking some damage too. It just looks like there's a lot of action happening in this match. I mean, even though it's kind of a one-sided affair from a points perspective, points per minute and overall points, HKL's not letting up. They're definitely coming at the JWM with everything they've got, whether that's one army or whether that's one rally, or they're doing what they can. I got to give it to them.
Yeah, HKL are not trying to slip out of this. They finally managed to bring JWM down to that 590. 590 is one of those numbers for those of you watching Ark of Osiris League and Ark of Osiris in general. That is the magic number. That is the exact center, the middle amounts of points. So when your enemy hits 590, it means that as of right now, either you're holding on to half of the map and they're holding on to half of the map, or it's time for you to start picking up buildings before they get their points. So they brought JWM down to the 590, which is the critical first step. And the next step now is to lock themselves the buildings they need in order to get those points. The problem is they don't truly occupy these buildings. Right now, JWM's recent altar take finally locks in the desert altar, and now that 590 went out the window with another 150 points. The next step for HKL has to be, we need to figure out how to stop the train. They keep getting away with things. They keep getting away with timing their rallies correctly to the point where HKL have yet to send an offensive attack that did not have at least one or two other JWM offensive moves happening in parallel. And it's just drawing the attention away from HKL. One thing to point out, I see a Tamaris on the open field, which is super exciting to see how people are mixing her up. I believe she is in there with an Edward. And it's really cool to start seeing these new commanders show up on the field. I've yet to see a Wuzetian, but I definitely have a feeling we'll be seeing her at least in the playoffs at some point.
You know, you just read my mind. I was looking at all the structures and looking at the battle reports to see if I could see any Wuzetian commander garrisoning any of these buildings as these rallies have continued to be fired off 6-8 at a time throughout this match. And I got about halfway through whenever it was my turn to talk, so I'm going to go ahead and pause that part of it because there's so much action on the field here. And to your point with Tamiris, I think that's going to be something. Some of the earlier kingdoms that have gotten her Mightiest Governor event are going to start to be able to put on the battlefield to good effect. With Tamiris, you have to have that fourth skill, hopefully maxed, to really start advantage of her poison talents and her poison skills. Also, again, just something to keep in mind with her. The target that Tamiris is against is going to receive extra skill damage, which we all know Ark of Osiris is very skill damage based. So that's going to be a significant advantage on the battlefield. If somebody on your side from an alliance perspective has that, that applies for everybody.
Dragothian, I'd like to point out here on the screen, we have 666 showing a very interesting forward play. He is the rally leader. He is in charge, I guess, of this top building, the Sky Altar. He launched a Saladin, I think there's a Genghis Khan in there. I can't really see. Rally, doesn't really matter at this point, but a Saladin rally, and followed that rally a full infantry march to help in case a swarm with counter damage comes in. It can help out against these different units. You can see right there, cavalry is really taking damage from that Charles Martel that is assisting the rally. And as a secondary assisting march, he sent an Ethelfled. So this is a very forward-thinking player who's not only leading the rally, he's also sending a counter rally, counter march in order to be able to help out in case a swarm comes by, and the debuffer to help anything that comes to hit this rally to hit it a bit less, and to allow Martel to do the extra damage. Once the open field is clear, these guys turn their attention and with a swarm of 3, rally in 2 solo marches. These solo marches are not meant to do this, but they are right now here to try to back up this rally as much as possible. Ethelfled really being the most important piece in here, doing a lot of debuffing to the Sky Altar, but the rally seems to be failing.
Yeah, if that Saladin could just get 1 or 2 more reinforcements, even with the swarm from the HKL side trying to take that rally down, you're exactly right. That Ethelfled army did its job to a T, and now we've got some more HKL armies coming into the match up there at the Sky Altar. And I don't know if it's just got enough meat in that rally left after attacking this Sky Altar for what seems like the whole match. It's definitely holding up on its own, and Saladin in his own right as a super tanky cavalry commander and being used to very good effect. This is not something that normally happens whenever a cavalry commanded rally goes on the field. Usually it's a quick, I'm either going to capture it really quick or I'm not, and then we got to start it over if we don't. But with Saladin, he's almost the infantry version of the cavalry world when it comes to how tanky he can possibly be. And then down at that life, definitely some more action coming from HKL, and also some more HKL buildings on the top right still getting lit up and still getting tapped. This is going to be not quite as as much of a giveaway game as it seems so far. I mean, they've still got one person left, to join that could turn the tide.
I don't know, man. To an extent, we're looking at 33 minutes remaining on this match. JWM holding on to the lead on the points per minute game by more than double, 670 points per minute for JWM against the 330 of HKL. HKL has been holding on to 2 altars very successfully, and they are doing their best to do the back and forth with this Shrine of Life, Shrine of War, doing whatever they can to try to hold on. JWM are not giving up. They're now with a swarm, trying to swarm the Desert Altar against a Richard holding on to it strong. In about 30 seconds, that building will lock in favor of the folks in red, and the points per minute game will close down a bit more. But with over 10,000 points difference, more than double the points in favor of JWM, and more rallies making their way towards buildings, arcs being captured in favor of JWM, HKL are having to fight more than one frontier worth of a war when it comes to the points in the game to win, and they're not able to even hold on to the one frontier, let alone buildings, arc, maybe even provisions. I don't know. It just looks like they're reacting to everything JWM do, and JWM just keep playing around.
Yeah, definitely being reactive instead of proactive, and you kind of have to understand, right, and feel for them a little bit. They're still short their players, and got off to a little bit of a slow start with that initial obelisk capture by JWM, ninja capturing that southern obelisk for HKL, and really kind of setting them on the back foot right off the bat. And, as the game has gone on, right, they've made some moves, they've made some pushes. They definitely made a few statements of, hey, we're not going away. But like you said, there is a significant points per minute disadvantage for them right now. There's certainly a significant just general points disadvantage. And as JWM just goes ahead and slowly strolls this arc into their outpost, this is going to definitely get away from them very quickly. We're almost at the 30-minute mark, and if they capture this right off the bat, we're looking at roughly a 14,000 point differential, and that's going to be almost impossible to come back from in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and blinking buildings all over the map, slowly and steadily relaxing as JWM within an instant grabbed the 2 altars away from HKL, trying to be a nuisance, slow down the points per minute game of their opposition, now holding on to a nasty 490 points per minute lead in this match. And what is the hope right now? How do we get out of this debacle? As you mentioned, Dragothian, we're missing one player for HKL, and the most likely outcome is that out of the 29 folk, there is definitely at least 4, 5 substitutions. Folks who as we mentioned more than once, might not be really acclimated to the top tier play, to the A-team environment. And now the real question is, how do they at least get something out of this match beyond just let's get the individual honor points and go home? How do we take a good lesson out of this thing and utilize the rest of these 30 minutes, if not to win, but to at least have some sort of a victory in the books in the sense of practice, training, experience?
Well, I mean, if you want to go that route, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're looking at this match, and it's probably the book's already written on which way this match is going to go. So, and when I say the lower tier, I mean we're not talking about Osiris League playoff top 32 alliances in the game. during your normal Ark of Osiris matches, where you might be a 500 million matchmaking power alliance or a 1 billion matchmaking power alliance, even, and certainly everything lower than that. This, if you're looking at this and that's your position that you're in, you're not out of it, because everybody doesn't have T5, right? Everybody does not have 5 full marches of T5 troops on the battlefield at any given time. And you can make a swing with a really solid move and swing the map in your favor very, very quickly. That being said, with this with this match, that's not the case. Everybody's got T5. Everybody knows what they need to do. There's strategies that are on top of strategies, and when you get this far behind, it's almost impossible to come back from when you're talking about a 16,000 point differential for JWM. So for me, if it was me, I would be wanting to make sure that everybody's getting their points, at least from a points perspective, to get as much rewards as they possibly can. And then on top of that, maybe do a little bit of testing and experimenting. Maybe throw some different commander combinations out there and see how they hold up against the top tier talent from a garrison standpoint and a defense standpoint.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to test drive a little bit of commanders that these folks have been getting along the way, or potentially, just never really had a chance to put on the field yet. Maybe during they picked them up after their Lost Kingdoms ended or something like that. It's a good time to, as you said, get all your individual stuff, get yourself situated, make sure that you get the best bang out of your buck always. But again, I'm kind of trying to figure out how a team can grow and learn out of this. And as you said, experiment with commander pairings is definitely the way to go right now. I think that Ark of Osiris is a perfect time for you to be able to keep up a little bit. Once you have your individual honor points, once you have everything set up, it's a good time to test out marches and really keep an eye on how much damage they do. Keep an eye on what kind of marches you're hitting. Ark of Osiris is a little bit hectic to an extent, but you can make it as of a controlled environment as you can. And really, as you're trying to get your individual points along the way, you can really get some testing going on in here. I'm saying this because I quite frankly don't see how HKL can say, okay, let's get into gear and come back into this. 27 minutes remaining, 18,000 point lead for JWM, and it's growing. And it's like, quite honestly, what do you do at this point? It's just try to get your silver lining and it's get better, improve, and come into a match like this next time better and stronger, I guess.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screen here, you've got a Frederick-led rally going up against a Richard-led garrison defense, and HKL trying to throw a few different armies inside of that Shrine of Life to hopefully hold and keep it from that rally. But while that Frederick's actually doing some pretty good damage, I'm not sure what exactly is inside from a troops capacity standpoint for HKL. I know they've got tons of bleaking buildings all over the place, just trying to hold where they can and do just enough to hold what they've got. But it looks like even with these reinforcements coming from HKL's side, this JWM-led rally, and being a mixed troop rally, anything can join. And if that leadership commander, which is Frederick, has those armed and armored to the teeth bonuses from its talent spec, that will definitely benefit that rally for extra damage and extra defense or damage reduction, more specifically in that rally. So that's an advantage for JWM for sure, and it looks like that is in fact going to go down. I don't see any more armies coming in to help save that Shrine of Life, and there's definitely some support sitting there, and there it goes. Yep.
Yes, sir. So sorry, I'm kind of like half in the match, half attempting to make sure my desk doesn't smell like coffee for the next 20 years. The interesting thing that I'm seeing consistently is a set of rally and solo marches everywhere I see a rally, right? It's a very relatively new meta in the game, especially in Ark of Osiris, where we're seeing rallies being followed by some individual marches to give it a little bit of an extra oomph. We've seen previously rallies just being sent out there, not even in Ark of Osiris, even in Lost Kingdom, rallies being sent out there against rallies, and open field combat being less impactful. And as season 2 came up and as Osiris League evolved, we started seeing the impact of the open field combat and the presence on the open field being a must for a team to be able to be victorious. And so it's really interesting to see that with every rally, there are the individual marches that accompany it that are either at the target already waiting or are on their way there to help out. You can see a great example of that with another Saladin rally on that Sky Altar that has 2 of 666's marches making its way to reinforce it. Although the rally really doesn't need those reinforcements, it got through to that Sky Altar. But it's really neat to see how the mix between a rally leader is no longer the guy that just hits 1 minute, send, and makes sure the troops are in. He's now also the guy supporting his own rallies as much as possible. So a rally leader is not only as good as his rally commanders anymore, but also what can he field on his other 4 marches to get that rally even further ahead.
Wow, and an interesting combination from JWM on that rally from Saladin. They went Saladin primary, YSG secondary, and you would usually not really think that's a good combo because you've got a cavalry commander and an archer commander, but when you really look at it, the support tree that Saladin provides being primary, and I'm not really a huge fan of that, but in this situation, it actually works out really well because that support tree generates so much rage for that rally hitting that shrine, and then having YSG on the back end, almost every single one of his skills are generic, and that's what only applies as a secondary commander are the skills, not the talents. So with that being said, the rage regeneration from both of those commanders alongside of the extra damage that YSG provides, actually a pretty good devastating combo for a rally to be hitting any objective on this match and causing some significant damage.
I think one of the things that we're going to figure out more and more as time goes by in this Osiris League, and we really get to the top of the top, the last few matches, we're going to see some really unorthodox rally combos. I feel like we're going to see some things that we don't necessarily see on the day-to-day, but the individuals who are competing in this Osiris League, from the standpoint of every single alliance that made it this far, even to today, these guys have their own little plans and strategies and tactics and pairs that they've been testing for certain situations. And we might find ourselves casting a few of these matches that'll have some very bizarre combinations that we don't recommend necessarily replicating on the open field or anywhere outside of the Ark of Osiris or Osiris League for that matter. But they work for the specific situations that the alliances figured out. One of the coolest things about being able to watch Osiris League, being able to watch the casts back and to get into the game and spectate in game is that you can really learn the tendencies your opponents have, and you can custom tailor pairings of commanders to specific situations you notice your opposition does. So even though that pairing on that rally earlier was not the most straightforward, not the most conventional pairing, it served its need and it worked perfectly, turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you just see that same mentality across the board here as you're looking at the Shrine of War. They've got a solid defense, and I think that's pretty much been the gold standard recently with almost everybody, and especially the playoffs for the Osiris League. Everybody is making sure that whatever they've got inside their respective objectives, they've got a super tanky Richard Charles or Charles YSG or something like that to hold that objective for as long as possible, because really what it boils down to is not just necessarily capturing it, but then keeping it long enough so you can have some support coming up from behind and helping maintain that so you can start keeping that points per minute lead, which, as you can see, JWM is still holding a pretty significant points per minute lead with 570 points more in their favor per minute than their HKL counterparts, with a massive lead as well of over 21,000 points. Definitely not going to come back from this. I think we can also probably start shouting out to the chat that's watching with us, enjoying this battle and seeing all the fun things happening on screen, to see if we can give some folks some GGs early, because I know it's 20 minutes left, but 21,000 points with this kind of a point differential with this little bit of time left in the game. Gecko, what do you think? Are we ready to call it?
On the one hand, there's no denying that this is over, right? I mean, we could try to spin it as however we want. Truthfully, if we do the real quick, very fast, and very convenient mathematics, this beautiful thing that is called math, if the folks of HKL right now at this instant pick up the whole map, every building they don't own, it'll take them a solid 3 minutes to own the whole map and gain 1,180 points per minute. In 3 minutes, we'll have about, let's round up a little bit to help HKL. We'll have about 17 minutes remaining. 17 minutes at the pace of 1,180 points per minute does not get you where you got to get. It gets even worse than that, Dragothian. If they take this Ark of Osiris, let me make sure that my math adds up. Yeah, if they take this Ark of Osiris right now, unless JWM have no provisioning, which I'm pretty sure they might have a little bit, they still don't have enough. There's no way out of this at this point, really. Math doesn't allow it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's this little thing called math. I agree. And yeah, it definitely works out in JWM's favor. It's a 26,000 point differential at this point because they did end up capturing that third arc. And yeah, sure enough, I think just at this point, HKL have still not having their full 30 complement of players to play with. And again, I'm a little curious. This is the second match in a row where the red team specifically has not had their full complement of players. I don't get it. You've got 60 members in your Osiris League army capacity availability to play in the game. And how could 31 not be there? 31 players not be there, no matter what the time, right? This is the end game. This is where the pros play. This is not for the everyday casual, and there's a place for these guys, right? Everyday casual, I'm going to send out some farms, I'm going to do some barbs, we're going to do a few fights on the battlefield here and there, play KBK, and contribute and try to get some honor points. Like those are the average everyday player that really makes up the majority of this game. That's not these folks. These folks are the ones that are into the game hours a day, putting tons of time into their accounts, tons of effort, loading up their commanders, loading up their troops. I mean, to not have over half of your team join an Osiris League playoff match, even if you're out of it, right? It's a problem. It's a problem. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
And so the one small correction that we need to make here is that in almost every other case, you are 100% correct. In this case, the only thing to add is that HKL actually registered with 46 members, 30 main players, and 16 substitutions. It's still, your point is still more than valid. It's even more than valid. I mean, come on, 30 people signed up. Those folks knew what they were signing up for. And seeing 16 extras and, I'm guessing, 6 at least made it into this match. Where is this really the trend? Is this what we're going to be seeing all day today? Matches of folks who are, okay, we don't care anymore, we've lost this, and they've mentally checked out, and because they mentally checked out, they never physically check in. Is that a thing? I really hope not.
I think it's definitely a thing. I hope it's not too prevalent, but at the same time, it's human nature, right? These are real people behind these armies that we're seeing on the screen. So if there's priorities that they have elsewhere in the game that they need to go take care of, and they know they're not going to be able to win a match or get the rewards that they're looking for, it's really a pride thing at that point, and whether they want to go ahead and move forward with that match. But I think anytime you can have the availability to go ahead and fight these things out, that's the way to go 100% of the time. And I think the chat agrees. It's a matter of respect. It's a matter of trying to make sure that you are doing what's best for your alliance. And at the end of the day, JWM is just outclassing HKL. I don't think the one player necessarily made the difference, but it's there. You got to talk about it, right? You got to figure out why one player is not maxing out that 30-person squad on the battlefield. And yeah, I mean, just staring at the Shrine of War here about to get taken down from JWM, maybe. There's plenty of JWM reinforcements sitting there that look to maybe pour into that shrine and didn't make it in time. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they should have definitely poured into that shrine if they had the availability. Look at all those armies going back for JWM. But keep calling HKL. Make sure that you are, putting some points on the board for yourself and taking care of your points to get your rewards, because there's a component of this event, which is the rewards. Everybody loves those.
Oh yeah, definitely. HCL still need to make sure they lock in their individual points. We've taken a look at it previously. We're going to go take a quick look again. 3 individuals from HKL are still struggling to get to that 10,000. The rest are in the clear. In JWM's side, everybody on the clear with those 10,000 points and above, ready and good to go. So far, let's go take a look at who the leader of the individual points is. I'm seeing Box on JWM side in 20 and 12. A Mundo 12 A Mundo is the guy leading the charge here. 75 and 70 million, 1,000 points. Sorry, in the sides of HKL. So there are people here doing damage. There are individuals here doing a lot of damage. The top 10 of HKL are really stacking the points, but it's just such a big fall after that. It's such a shame, it's really such a shame. I don't blame the substitutions for coming in. I think the substitutions being there is why there are substitutions, and it's a good thing that some of them did make it in. I don't blame the substitutions for any grievances that happened during this match, whether you like it or not. They are substitutions. They're not the players that are geared up for as long as these folks have been playing together to get the perfect synchronization. Having one player down at the end is it's kind of like sugar coating it, right? These guys are 7 players down with 6 substitutions and 1 empty chair. That's what we're seeing here, really.
Yeah, and again, I mean, at this point in the match with just over 13 minutes left, I think that JWM really is just kind of keeping the pressure on, making sure that they don't start coming over on their side, just because, I mean, again, JWM is definitely one of those alliances where they don't want to necessarily let off the gas. That's just their mentality. I've seen it time and time again. And again, just having known these guys from the beginning of the game, and when they started playing, the evolution of that alliance from what I saw from it at the very beginning of when Arc of Osiris came out to now, I'm very impressed for sure with how they have evolved and how their strategy has really solidified, especially culminating in something like this where you could tell right from the get-go, right off the bat, that they were just a step ahead of their competition. And now that they're going to be going to the round of 16 next week, I'm very interested to see exactly what they're going to be faced up against, because these are going to, again, be the even more cream of the crop, being the top 16 alliances in the whole game that were available to register for Osiris League. I'm going to be interested to see how those strategies play out, because just from what I've seen, these things should work. The stuff that they're doing should work now and maybe the last week of the whole event.
Yeah, this JWM here trying to be a nuisance on this obelisk. This rally on the bottom obelisk, red obelisk, has been hitting for quite some time. Marches have been pouring into the obelisk, but it doesn't seem to phase the rally that is just smacking into it with a Freddy at the front. But it looks like HKL are running out of potential troops to come in here. It looks like they needed to refresh one troop a little bit. Sleep is weak. Made his way in there, and now I see 7 HOR making his way, or Hassum coming out of 7 HOR's city, going towards this obelisk. So much attention diverted, such a perfect timing too to try to divert the attention. I mean, HKL were not even really starting to feel the gas pedal. They were kind of hinting towards putting a couple of rallies here and a couple of rallies there. And JWM instantly reply with, keep an eye on your obelisk while we clean up this top area. And then we'll talk about continuing with the match. Now, unfortunately, I did crash. So we are going to need you, Dragothian, in your radio expertise as I load in back into the game.
Yeah, not a problem, buddy. So again, at the very top, we've got 2 HKL objectives, the Sky Altar and the Shrine of War, both blinking. Lots of open field battles that I'm seeing here, and I wish you could see what I'm seeing. Hopefully Gecko can get back in very quickly. and showcase what this is, because there's lots of open field battles, there's rallies. This is what Ark of Osiris and Osiris League are all about. All these different commanders and all these different players fighting. And even though this match particularly is over 31,000 points difference, this is still fun to watch. And that's, again, goes to how awesome this game is, how awesome this event inside the game is, and a little taste of what's to come as more matches unfold at the beginning of Sundays for the next weeks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as we make our way back into the match, slowly and steadily trying to get ourselves back into the fray here, see what is going on. Shrine of War, massive fight happening in here. Outside of it, open field combat, Shrine of War combat, all sorts of combat all over the place. I see blues, I see reds, I see lots of damage. And more Ethelfleds on the open field, more and more of these Alexanders, Constantines, a few of them on the open field as well. I'm super happy to see the newer generation of commanders slowly peeking more and more into the game. I keep mentioning that through every cast, that for me, the most important thing is to see how the game is evolving, and Ark of Osiris is one of those times for us to see how these commanders are favored in certain situations. A lot of folks say Ethelfled is potentially wasn't necessarily the best addition to the game, and yet now we're seeing her being a key to take over buildings as well as defend them. I'm really happy with seeing all these commanders, Dragothian.
Yeah, me too. I love it. And again, this is the top tier, right? This is the top cream of the crop of what's in the game from a alliance perspective, which means that there's tons of power players in here that are investing in these new commanders because they're the new ones. They're the ones that they want to start testing out. And you see some Tamirises on the field. You see some Constantines even. There's some mid 200 kingdoms out there that are just in the middle of their Constantine mightiest governor that folks are really starting to get in and get invested from a commander standpoint. We've also got Edward out there. We've got there's all kinds of good commanders, both from the mightiest governor as well as the Wheel of Fortune in this game, and loving to see all these commanders. And it's not just the YSG and Richard Fest everywhere. There's tons of variety, and that's what's going to make this game even better as it unfolds throughout the following months and years to come. Is just the sheer variety of what you can bring to the match. The more variety, the less cookie cutter this game is, and that just to me is really what makes this game as good as it is because you are individual, you have your own stamp on it, and that even applies in Ark of Osiris and Osiris League when it comes to watching what you're watching right now.
What's really cool is that these are two alliances from old kingdoms, Kingdom 30 against Kingdom 59, and these folks have been here for quite some time. They have gone through the cycles of most of the commanders out there. Well, really, they're going through the final cycle, what should be at least the final cycle of Tamaris, unless we see potentially another mightiest governor of her. These guys have the latest and greatest commanders available to them. They are also fresh out of Season 2 of KVK, which means some of these alliances, some of these kingdoms ended up getting a Uzetian to join the field. So far, we haven't seen one, but I'm more than confident we'll see multiple Uzetians on the field during the top 16, and we'll definitely be seeing them taking over a bit more. And the thing that's crucial that's really exciting me about Uzetian is that Uzetian is not a commander that is going to lead the rally, win the rally, and then take over the building. The only way we will see Uzetian being used to defend a building is if the alliance has the presence of mind to change who the general is. And so the combination of adding Uzetian into the game and adding her into the strategy and overall tactics would require an alliance to have the awareness to take a look at this very small detail that you and I have mentioned multiple times, how it is very undervalued, the correct commander holding onto the building. And now if we start seeing Uzetians popping up, they're probably going to be a march that is filling a rally with a good secondary commander and a Uzetian at the lead. And once that rally takes over the building, the presence of mind of changing who is the general of that building is what will put her on the field. And it'll just increase our awareness to the little details.
Yeah, those are little things that why this type of coverage, right? And it's a blowout right now. You can tell it's almost a 40,000 point game. It's actually a little bit over 40,000. This is what you should be taking away. If you're watching, obviously enjoying the battles, enjoying the fights, that's always good to see all the groups clashing and all that good stuff. But those are the types of little things that you can take as a leader of your respective alliance or a player that's inside of your respective Ark of Osiris match and take back and say, okay, that's something we can do, because it's not too hard to do those things. You don't need T5 for that. You just need a few quality commanders. And those are things that even the newer players in the game that are just starting out, or people that are really invested in the game from a time perspective, can really do in their matches and put that into practice so that they can use those next level top tier plays for an alliance that just got started 2 months ago.
As far as I'm concerned, as long as, again, using the same words again, the presence of mind is improved, is grown, it requires individuals to have a much more attentive management of what's going on on the field. The more detailed Ark of Osiris can get. The whole point of tactics and strategies is who can catch on the small details and capitalize on them. But when you don't have the presence of mind for all the small details, if the two teams have a mutual agreement that is not a written agreement, right? It somehow happened that they don't really care for who the captain of the building is, then you can't really capitalize on that, right? Because if both teams don't have that presence of mind, neither team is capitalizing on it. The moment one does, it'll require the other one to do it as well, and it'll just evolve the intelligence around the game. I am less excited to see like the mechanical part of which commanders make it into the buildings. I just really want every single person who takes a building to have that presence of mind of, wait, is this the right captain? Always.
Yeah, all the leaders in the matches need to be fully aware and situationally aware of who's in what, and obviously communication is key for that, right? I mean, we've both fought alliances that didn't use verbal communication. I think that's one huge takeaway from this. And obviously both of these teams are definitely in a voice chat of some kind. I guarantee it, because of just the sheer coordination on both sides needs to have that. But if you're in those early Ark of Osiris matches from a New Kingdom standpoint, or if your alliance is more homegrown and not necessarily super powered, like you see what's in front of you,
less seasoned.
You're going to be playing Ark of Osiris, less seasoned or less veterans on the field. You're going to be able to use a lot of this stuff for yourself, and you're going to need to be situationally aware. You're going to need to have a voice chat of some kind to coordinate, because you cannot do this through text. You cannot just do this through text. There's no possible way to coordinate it as effectively as voice. That's why we're not sitting here typing in super chat the things that we're saying. We're talking. We're doing it through voice. It's an easier way to communicate and connect.
Well, first and foremost, if we'd have to write everything we say in Super Chat, it would cost me an arm and a leg to get all that out on that Super Chat with the donation that has to come with it, especially in my case. But with that being said, it's an interesting thing that you pointed out. Really, it's time for the newer generation of Ark of Osiris players to take some notes on the things that they see that they haven't thought about before. This doesn't only apply, by the way, to newer kingdoms. It also applies to the folks who are going to play JWM next, probably. What is something watching this match that we have realized? And there are such small details that people don't really consider, but if they do keep an open mind about it and do a correct set of homework, you see JWM took that obelisk out of HKL and HKL swarmed it right back and took it back. Monster got a little bit lucky and picked up that obelisk by himself and got kicked right out of it. But if you notice small details like who are the rally leaders for the opposition, you can know based on their location after their first port you can definitely know what they plan on doing, which side they're in charge of, which rallies we're going to see going where, and you can really shift all your defense based on that. It's as simple as keeping an eye on who was rallying most of the time, writing it down on a piece of paper, and then during the next match, as soon as the ports come in and these first folks port out first, they are the rally leaders, they have to be out there first. As soon as you see where they landed, that's already a small piece of a strategy you can employ to from there start on what you are going to do based on that very, very small piece of information that you can just get by watching us.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the match comes to an end, HKL going down to JWM obviously having a massive points differential in their favor, really owned the match away. I think that overall, let's give some GGs and well played in the live chat here, and give both alliances a big round of applause. Looks like HKL 12 Imando with the champion of Egypt tag with 135,644 points. Congratulations to him for at least tagging his alliance and given the win from a champion of Egypt standpoint to the HKL squad. But as we roll over to the actual breakdown of the match, Gecko, I'm looking at some numbers here that are definitely glaring, and obviously the reason why JWM was able to win.
So let's get those GGs up in the chat. Like Dragothian said, I want to see that spam of GGs, you beautiful people. We have almost 400 folk with us sticking till the end. Let's get those GGs out for the folks who did have a very, very tough fight here. The number, there is only one number that stands out for me as far as I'm concerned. It is one big fat 0. Do you see it?
There's a pretty large one right there at the top, and that's going to be the Ark of Osiris not really getting captured from HKL. And how could they, right?
I was talking about the one in the center blue portion right there.
Units healed. Okay.
0. Once again, JWM just saying, we're not going to heal. It's not something to beat around the bush too much, because we have seen even bigger alliances healing a little bit. But the reason that 0 is something that I really think is worth highlighting. It goes to show the level of coordination, Dragothian, to the point where not one individual accidentally healed. You know how you're like doing things and you're like click, 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 and like, okay, cool, I'll just heal a little bit, whatever happens. Nothing. Nobody after their first hit went for a quick heal. Nobody thought about, having those 20 troops that they had early on. Nothing. 0. That's a sign of coordination that it really blows my mind. Second match in a row, we see absolute 0 units healed. The thing is a 0, right? Yeah. If it was 5, if it was 7, if it was 10, 20, 100 that someone accidentally healed. But the 0 it's actually harder than it seems to have a 0 healed units. Think about it, 30 people.
Yeah, it's tough to coordinate that. I think it also goes to show just exactly how powerful the JWM players are. I mean, when you don't heal anything with a match where you have killed just over 23 million troops and received 18.5 million severely wounded.
Absolutely.
You just have so many troops. You just have so many troops that you don't need to heal. And again, this being not only the top flight cream of the crop alliances in this Osiris League playoff event, but then the best players inside of those super alliances, and JWM being one of the biggest, it's really hard for them they'd have to proactively go out of their way to heal, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. Dragothian, do you have any final thoughts for us before we go back into the desk?
No, I think we're good here. This is this was a fun match to watch just from a raw power standpoint, and I think JWM, just to summarize, really kind of took the initiative right off the bat and did not let it go, and really just kind of brought the pain to HKL, for lack of a better term, and they just couldn't turn it around. And how could you, right? I mean, when you're that far behind right off the bat, it's really hard to come back in this level of play in Osiris League playoffs.
Yeah, man, what else can be said, Dragothian? Thank you very, very much for being with me here today. I apologize for what you just heard. The chat didn't hear it, but I'm sure you certainly heard it. So I apologize for that one. But anyway, thank you very much for the casting today. We have three more matches coming up, but you won't be joining me in the next two. So I appreciate you being here, my man. Thank you for the hard work in this Osiris League cast. Folks, before we head back to the analyst, just a quick thought for you guys. In the comments down below, in the description, right before the comments, you'll find every single content creator's links, YouTube channels, whatnot. Go say hi, come say hi, subscribe to the channels. Shout out to Dragothian, my man. Thank you very, very much. And I guess let's head back
to be here.
The desk for a final goodbye, I guess. Something. Yeah, sure. All right, so that's about time to wrap things up. JWM with a pretty expected victory right there. It is not easy to take out these folk, and from the second they picked up that obelisk, it was gone. They had the driver seat the whole time. They were driving, they were chilling, they had that roof open, and HKL did everything in their power to fight back. They did not give up. Those who were on the field fought very hard, picked up buildings back, defended some rallies. It was a really, really good matchup for us to watch. But for now, I leave you letting you know that we got another doubleheader coming up. And in the doubleheader, we'll have a brand new caster coming into the show. That is none other than Chiskel Gaming will be joining us for the doubleheader later on. So you don't want to miss that. For you not to miss it, down below, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you get a notification when the next Arc cast is coming up, when the next Osiris League is up. And before you leave, smash a like on the stream. We appreciate you very much. Thank you for being here. This cast was brought to you by the content creators of Rise of Kingdoms, the sponsored content creators, as well as Lilith Gaming. Thank you guys very much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in a couple of hours for another 2 hours of madness. Peace.